I've had many encounters during my life, some that have really terrified me, but the first encounter that I can recall was when I was about 7 years old. My family and I lived in this beautiful 2-story house. Not long after we moved there, I would often talk about Harry and Fred, who were the ghosts or beings that occupied the house. I was never scared of them. I spoke of them as if they were my friends, and my family would always overhear me speaking to them. One morning I was laying in my parents' bed, after they had gone off to work and my older sister was asleep next to me. I was waiting for her to wake up, so we could go to the swimming pools for the day when 2 black figures with red eyes appeared next to me. They were beckoning to me and I shook my head no to them. I remember knowing that it was Harry and Fred, so I wasn't scared at all. They then went to the foot of the bed and beckoned to me again. I said no and reached over to my sister and shook her to wake her up. They vanished right before my eyes while I was trying to wake her. I was always told my eyes were playing tricks on me, but to this day I still can remember it so clearly, and I know what I saw was real. Apparently there had also been 2 other people who had paranormal encounters during the time. We lived there, which I wasn't aware of until I was much older, but from what I was told, these encounters were far more terrifying. Both times they had woken up to something on top of them and they were unable to move or talk. When we moved on from that house, I remember telling my parents quite matter-of-factly one night, while sitting in the lounge, that Harry and Fred had just come to say goodbye to me. What's even more strange is when I was telling my partner about this not long after we met, he shared with me that when he was around the same age, he also had many encounters and that one particular being was named Fred. It tripped me out big time, lol.
Growing up, myself, my dad, my mom, and my siblings have all seen a tall, dark figure at various times in our lives. My mom seems to be the source of it, since none of us have seen it since my dad divorced her. Some of the more terrifying instances were when I was little and had sleep paralysis for the first time. When I saw the thing with its back up against the ceiling, my brother used to be afraid of using our apartment's bathroom because he said he saw it in there too. My mom refuses to talk about it, and my dad had given vague descriptions of times when I had talked to it as a little girl, or shared stories of my mom seeing it as a teenager in her room. There was another one recently where I thought I saw something tall walk halfway up a set of stairs to my left, then walk back down. The view was partially obstructed by a banister, so I couldn't properly see it. And in that same day, my aunt claimed she saw a shadow behind her in that same part of the house. I don't know if these 2 are connected at all, but they're creepy nonetheless.
One night I was biking home, and I got to the wooded part of the route, and before going down the sloped area, I paused to take my phone out and put my earbuds in to listen to music. And as I went to take out my phone, the sound of a branch snapping got my attention, and I looked up, and only a few feet from me was this tall, pale, bone-thin creature standing off to the side of the trail but still on the sidewalk. It had large black eyes, no nose, and a thin slit for a mouth. Its hands were extremely long and had large clawed fingers. It was standing in a kind of squatted, semi-crawling posture. Before I could even react to what I was seeing, it let out a loud screech, and at an insane speed it leapt or moved quickly into the brush-denser areas beyond the trail. Hearing the screech, it sent me into a panic and my flight response kicked in, and I just pedaled my ass as fast as I could through the forest-wooded area. The whole time I could hear large branches and dried leaves being snapped, broken, and the sounds of something large moving through the forest alongside me, as if it were giving chase to me but not wanting to be seen again, if that makes sense. I got through the forest area, which then opened up into a residential kind of area where there were a few streetlights and homes off in the distance. I wound up stopping underneath a street and looked back at the forest-lined tree line, and I saw the figure squatted down at the edge of the forest just watching me. And after catching my breath, I wound up speeding back home to my aunt's house, threw my bike in the garage, closed it and rushed inside, locking every door and window I could, and then ran up to my bedroom, locked the door, and refused to sleep that night. Yes, I know I said I wouldn't tell the full story, but sharing this experience always ends up making me do it anyways, lol. I did see the creature one other time, a few weeks later in my aunt's backyard, staring up at the window of my bedroom, but I haven't seen it since. I do 100% believe that it was a subterranean cryptid or creature due to its appearance, but also the fact that the area it happened in has a few trails that wind up going underground, through some underground tunnels, and I think that the construction had probably caused it to come out to the surf or agitate it. It's enough for it to come out of hiding, and I just happened to be at the right place at the wrong time.
At my grandma's house in upstate NY, I always felt watched. From the outside in, I didn't feel watched inside the house. but I refused to leave the blinds or curtains open once the sun went down. It actually always frustrated my grandma that I wouldn't keep the windows open. But I played it off that, oh, I can't sleep because the streetlights are too bright. The place was low-key, kind of creepy on its own, but nothing outlandish. The basement terrified me because of a crawl space at the back, and the attic freaked me out because I felt like something wanted to shut me in there. But that wasn't the scary part. It was just unsettling. I was almost never able to sleep at night. I was physically afraid to fall asleep. I'd stay up for hours and hours pacing back and forth. I'd get drawn to the bathroom and would watch my face morph in the mirror for hours. I didn't know anything about why you should literally never do this until the last year or so, and never had any interest in watching myself in the mirror of a dark room since then. But what truly terrified me? The deer outside that gathered in the woods on the property, and in the field, vacant lots facing the kitchen window. The vacant lots in themselves really made me uncomfortable. I felt like something terrible had occurred on the property. But the deer made it so much worse. As soon as they'd come out, I would hide in the living room because I knew they couldn't see me there. I never had any explanation, until recently, for why these deer terrified me so badly when I can appreciate a group of deer anywhere else. I absolutely believe a SW resides on the property, and that I saw it taking on the shape of a deer on more than one occasion. I was between the ages of 10 and 13 when all of this took place. And my parents thought I was just paranoid, but I'm 29 now, and it still really makes me nervous when I think about it.
Back around 2006-2008, I lived in a neighborhood in Fenton, MO with no sign of anything weird for years. Around this time, though, something changed. Neighbors started talking about their kids complaining about shadow people in their apartments to start. At the same time, my dad, brother, and I were watching TV and arguing about what to watch. My dad had the remote, and I was controlling the cable box trying to turn the channel, jokingly, and the TV started switching on its own, then flashing 6666 at the top of the screen until it shut off. Soon afterwards, we began hearing footsteps from the attic space above our top-floor apartment. Soon afterwards my brother witnessed shadowy figures running across the downstairs windows at night, with a mutual friend, but no one was outside. Soon after that, my dad was exiting the bathroom around 2 or 3 a.m., and a shadow figure stood in the doorframe after he opened the door. My dad, baddest dude I knew and former martial arts student of like 17 years, stumbled backwards into the tub, frightened. Soon after that, I began to see shadow figures moving out my peripheral vision. To say this was all unsettling is an understatement.
I was home alone one night and went to walk my dogs before bed. I live on the second floor of condos. I opened the door, and there was a woman standing there at the top of my steps. She was wearing a dark-colored hoodie, and the scariest part was that her neck was completely bent to one side so it looked like her head was hanging down. I'm a medium and I'm used to seeing spirits, but she freaked me out. Even though I was really scared, I still had to take my dogs out. I walked past her and could feel her walking behind me as my dogs did their thing. When they were done, I walked back up my stairs and could still feel her behind me. I told her she was not allowed into my personal space and had to stay outside. I sat down on my couch, wondering what the heck I had just seen because I've never seen a spirit with their head and neck like that. I was only sitting there for about 30 seconds when there was 3 knocks on the door. They weren't very loud. So my first thought was that I had imagined them, but the dogs ran to the door barking. I went to the door and said, "Who's there?" But there was no answer. I got really scared and went to my room and locked my door and tried my best to sleep after that. I've never seen her again and I'm kind of okay with that, LOL.